So, hi everyone, today in this video we're gonna discuss another biz and is going on in our marathon in order to try to fully with you a lot more of knowledge about what can be the possibilities, what can be the reasons that can make you have a biz thinking and so making decisions that would be not ideal because they're based more in emotions, based more in heuristics than our brain that when it follows not a pathway where you apply the logical reasoning, a pathway where you prefer to go for short decisions because we don't want to spend time, you don't want to spend mental energy, and then so you start taking this type of decisions that are not think, and they are majorly they are ruled by these heuristics that are like ways that our brain adopts to make quick decisions. But the reality is that sometimes we have to fight them because even they being more easier to make than doing a long process of logical reasoning, in reality that sometimes they can so put us and can create bad type of outcomes from us because so they're not well think. And what's going to be the beast that we're going to talk today? Hindsight beast, retrospective beast. And then so we always start by understanding what is the biz, real life examples, when we're more susceptible, and so how try to overcome it. So first, the definition. What is hindsight bias? Is the tendency to see events as having been predictable after they have already occurred. So, in other words, once we know the outcome, we often believe we knew it all along, even if there was little basis for predicting it beforehand. So, sometimes people really try to fall in these bees, and sometimes this starts and this is a red is something that's it's given by we having a lot of self-confidence that we knew everything, we don't want to feel uncomfortable about our past. And the reality is that when we got these insight bees, we have a limitation about how we learn and so how we gonna work in the future. Because if we all look for the past and we don't kind of have this clear way to see it and understand why we have not understand some outcomes, and mainly so the bad ones that I will try to avoid. If we see that is were all things that we could see and were predictable, the reality is that so we are gonna have limitations, we're not gonna learn. And that's so sometimes a lot of the errors that in the past has happened in the history. If you study history, the wars that have happened between cultures are things that look in hindsight today that people study, they seem that why they've not avoided. Well, was obviously something that if you see, if two cultures are fighting too much time in order that mainly so because of things that creates a lot of intolerance because there are fights between the religions, fights between the resources that are limited. It's like obvious that if doesn't exist a regulation or someone that so makes interference, this going to start so to become really dangerous and so trigger as a war. So why people have not avoided? The reality is that it's something that people see it in the past, but they really remain doing in the future. And that's so sometimes people say that history not repeats, but has a lot of things in common with what will happen in the future. Other type of real life examples we have in sports. After a football match, many fans claim they knew which team would win, even though the game was uncertain until the final whistle. That's something that people tend to say as well. Investments. Following a stock market crash, investors might say they expected the downturn despite not acting on the belief before it happened. Sometimes it's something that people as well tend to do. Projected outcomes in a work environment. If a project fails, team members may insist that the warning signs were obvious, even if they didn't voice concerns earlier. And that's something that's common. People, when they're already so have understood and have got so what is the outcome, it's easy so to understand that what will are all the things that could be indicators to make so be the outcome predictable. But the reality is that in the time they have not so give whole the type of this way to see for the indicators, and people have not just seen by the things that were will be so the indicators of what really will happen in the futures. They already were dealing and will valuing things that could and are indicating from the opposite of what will happen. But me, as someone that is in the future, that already seen so what happened, I'm just so look for hindsight. And for example, in football match, I'm gonna say, oh wow, it was clear that this team would win. So you have seen so how this specific player was playing was having a play really bad, and so start trashing him. But reality is that in the time is something that will be, and I give value, will be indicated that if this important player is not playing good towards a hand goal, so we have a lower probability. It was probably in the same moment some other players were leveling up and was also having well delivering good type of outcomes. Then so when I'm in the future looking for hindsight, I'm not gonna value these ones. I'm not gonna seek for the ones that could be like indicators of different outcomes of what happened. I'm just gonna value it and saying, oh, it was clear these indicators were present. So it's like being based towards acting of what happened in the past and just kind of underestimating the intelligence, underestimating how easy it was. So in the situation in the past to preview the future. And it's something that's bad because so we not create empathy, and obviously something that we don't like. We don't as well don't we just look for like gray. We look for or blank or is white or is black. But sometimes some situations are gray. Things are not certain, and we have kind of difficult to deal with things don't are like or 0 or 100. So it's things that we have to understand that past as a future, things are confused, and we have to accept in and not to treat others as them just because some outcomes seen in the hindsight they seem to clear that will happen. So one, we're more susceptible to face and suffer with these beats. After outcome is known, obviously, once we know how things turn out, our memory can be distorted to make it seem like the outcome was inevitable, and how we do it just looking and overvaluing the importance of indicators that so will be important ones and will be and are important indicators to determine the outcome that happened, and not look for indicators that will be and will saying it could be so someone that could put people looking as well for other alternatives of what could happen. Emotional situations, high emotion events, whether positive or negative, tend to make us feel that the outcome was more predictable than it actually was, because this basically this business lack of rationality to look for things that could be indicators for what could be different outcomes, and so these indicators will be present in the life of someone in the past that obviously so doesn't so get the ability to have so clarity about what will happen in comparison with me in the future. And obviously so it requires empathy, requires to have logical reasoning, and if obviously we're more in emotional situations, you're not going to be able so to think critically and put in the position of the other ones. That was one of the better skills that humans have evolved to have, and that's one of the things that we're losing a bit today. And that's so people now sometimes it in the whole is to be more busy and not having empathy towards the other one, try to understand the other one, because what creates hindsight bias? Hindsight bias creates lack of empathy towards the other one, and that's something that people tend to have. Simplistic narratives, something that's happened, something that's lazy people have a tendency to have, create these simplistic narratives. When events can be explained with a straightforward cause and effect story, we're more likely to fail in hindsight bias. This is something that happens a lot, trying to make and diminishing the real type of complexity that people face, just so putting a straightforward cause and effect story and not seeing more things as gray instead of just white and black. But now talk about that, understanding when we're more susceptible, real life examples, why is bad. Now, what is more important so is try to overcome it. So now that we understand what is this biz about, how we overcome it. Keep records of predictions. Before events unfold, write down your expectations and reasoning. Later compare these predictions with the real outcome. One of the best ways. Consider alternative outcomes. Deliberately think about other possible results. Ask yourself what factors might have led to a different outcome. That's something that really happened, mainly so when something has happened. Have this ability to create empathy, put in the positions in the past, and so understanding why the people could think differently of what really happened. So reflect objectively, so it's what we require to you when reviewing past events. Try to assess the situation, because this is something that can help us. Sometimes you can achieve a pattern that thinks that could be indicator of different outcomes of what really happened, seems to have a pattern. And then, so in the future, when you're facing and trying to predict something in the future, see so if some indicators that could be something that will make you so indicate that something will happen, but in the future will not happen. Sometimes if you already catch a pattern in the past, that so-called indicator, that even if a specific indicator can exist, it's not so you cannot give you so a relevance to, in comparison with other one that so-called determine you a better way to predict the future. And then so we need to increase awareness. Simply being aware that Hindsight Biz exists can help reduce its impact on your memory and decision making. That's something that it's really important to get it. So, by understanding actively countering hindsight bias, you can improve your decision-making process and maintain a more accurate perspective of past events, and you can as well help you to as well have a better way to predict the future by looking better for the past. So, I expect this video has helped you to be a better person, to have improved your decision making, and see you in the next one.